Well, we think it is really worth it to just try out some of these tools and figure out what works for you. Literally just experiment with them, which as a scientist should excite you, of course. Just experiment a little, see what works for you, what works in your workflow, and how you would like to use them, and find something that fits you.
Yes. Ultimately, also, the responsibility for the correctness of the information that you put in your papers is still on you, right? It's your name on there. No one has ever blamed the calculator for, mistakes. You are the person they'll take the fault for it. So you should also be the person incentivized to make sure that it's good.
Yeah. And with that, we think that some of the tools we recommend can really help you make sure that the information is correct more easily than ChatGPT. Welcome to the 75th episode of the Struggling Scientist podcast. We are a podcast by scientists, for scientists, anybody science adjacent, and perhaps even hobbyists. My name is Susanne and I'm here with my co-host Jaron.
Hi.
Today, we are discussing AI tools in academia. Now, ChatGPT has been around for a while and it has shaken things up quite a bit. But did you know that there are more specialist AI tools for scientists? In this episode, we want to go over some of the best and most useful AI tools you as an academic should consider using to make your life much easier. So let's start. Okay, well, let's dive right into the topic. Why do we think AI tools are relevant for academics? Well, of course, AI tools have been developing way faster than anybody could have predicted. And it's becoming more and more prevalent in academia. Really, whether people want it or not, it is being used for writing, literature research, note-taking, and much more. So there's really no stopping it anymore, I would say.
No, indeed. And on top of that, it can also really just help you as an assistant so that you can focus more on the important tasks that you have going on. It can also help you make your academic workflow and your overall process for writing and publishing more efficient and just overall easier, which, let's be honest, who doesn't want that?
For sure.
And lastly, it can really function as that assistant that I just mentioned earlier, but only if you use it correctly. So keep in mind that the responsibility does ultimately fall on the researcher.
Yes, exactly. And that leads us right into also the discussions that are around about AI tools. There are some pros and cons, of course. We are really of the opinion that it's always best to make an informed decision about things and experiment a little with AI tools. And then make your own decision about what you think of them and where you would want to use them and where not.
Yeah, in addition to that, it's already becoming quite pervasive, both within and outside of academia. And you really don't have the option of just ignoring it anymore or burying your head in the sand. It's sort of like the typewriter versus like the computer, right? So at a certain point, everyone switches to the computer, and you if you want to be useful in the workforce or have a future job, you're going to have to learn how to work with it, sort of.
Yes.
Yes. And yeah, in addition to that, there are also some valid concerns, I would say, when using AI, both in terms of security and privacy with regards to your information. Scientific information is still quite new and innovative and kept kind of hush-hush at the beginning. So be sure to not give all your information to whatever AI tool you're using, because you don't know how they're going to share that information or look into that information or whatever.
Yeah, one of the main concerns with AI is that there's really no policies yet about how it can share the information that you give it in the chat. So I would definitely be very careful for that. And now another concern people often use is that AI could be very easily used for fraud. Then, of course, we're talking about fake news with fake images of Obama doing things. But also the Pope, yes. But also in science, people fear that it could be used to do this. But then people who would commit fraud with AI are already committing fraud in other ways. And I really don't think that adding AI or not is going to make people who have good integrity and are good scientists commit fraud or vice versa. So I think that's more on the people than on the AI. Again, the responsibility for making sure that everything that is in a paper is correct is on the researcher, and everything should be fact-checked. And also really important is that a lot of AI tools such as ChatGPT can hallucinate or make up information. We'll go into how this works later a little bit more, but sometimes it just says things that are really not true, or it can use information from sources that were already faulty to begin with. So it's really important to always check sources. And how to exactly do that, we'll get into more when we talk about the AI tools themselves.
Yes, and in addition to some of the other concerns, Some people also mentioned that it can, reinforce biases such as highlighting papers or research that is open access or might be published in more privileged countries. And to that, that's not really the tool's necessary fault. It could just be that we need to push for more open access across the board, which is always a good thing, right? I mean, having access to more information is always good.
Yeah, that not open access papers are anyway less accessible for some less privileged countries, so it would anyway be better to go for open access.
Yes. And yeah, in addition to that, some people also say that writing and reading are very necessary skills as an academic, which I would be inclined to agree with. But so you shouldn't outsource them necessarily to like AI tools to help you do those kinds of things. And I would say yes, but maybe also consider the fact that things evolve over time, right? Like how we consume media and information changes. Twitter made 280 characters a thing. Audio books and podcasts made audio information a thing. So I think AI tools can help us consume information in a different way as well.
Yeah, that's a development that we really cannot stop anymore. So
yeah,
basically we just have to go with it at this point.
Yes.
Okay, now the big elephant in the room that everybody has heard about is, of course, ChatGPT. We are also big fans of it and we use it a lot. We actually have ChatGPT 4 because we also use it a lot for content generation and image generation, and it's absolutely great for that. But there are some pros and cons to ChatGPT. Now, first, before we start talking about that, a quick explanation of what ChatGPT is and how it functions. It's a large language model which is trained to create text. That means that it falls under generative AI, which is all the AI tools that generate new content, as you will, and not just gives you a yes or no answer on a question, basically. And it predicts the likelihood of the next word in a sentence. So it predicts if a sentence makes sense, if a new word makes sense in the context of the sentence that was already going on. And that can sometimes also mean that it can hallucinate, because it would make a lot of sense for example, a gene that is involved in cholesterol metabolism to be highly expressed in the liver, because in context that makes a lot of sense because the liver is a very important organ for cholesterol metabolism. But that doesn't mean that it's scientifically true, but it is something that ChatGPT might tell you.
And has told you in the past, no? Yeah.
That is a real life example indeed.
Yes.
It made me doubt my entire life's work.
Years of research.
Yes.
No, but indeed, all that. But also, there's also just a lot going on in terms of like how much people are discussing ChatGPT and how popular it is and how it's being applied in academia. There are a variety of Nature papers that do surveys on academics, postdocs, tenured professors and such to see how they're adapting to this AI tool, how it's currently being used for example, grant writing and stuff like that, which we could make an entire episode about just on that. But there's a lot of information on that as well if you want to check that out. Furthermore, we also want to touch on some of the limitations when it comes to using ChatGPT for academic use. There are a couple of big ones. These include the again, what Suzanne already hinted at is that it's a prediction model, so it makes up the sentences based on what it thinks is most likely and not what is actually scientifically accurate. So be aware of that and actually double check what it's providing you. It can make your life easier, but ultimately, again, the responsibility will fall on you. So you want to double check that everything it's giving you is accurate, that you can use that. Next up is also the challenges that come with the citing any information that ChatGPT gives you. It tends to just sort of give you the information, but not really where the source came from. And if it sounds plausible enough, you might just believe it. So that's also a thing that we'll come back to as well.
Additionally to that, it also can make up sources. Yes. So I at one point also asked it to give me a list of papers that I was an author of, because I told it I was working cholesterol metabolism, that my name was Susanna, and that I wanted to know the list of papers I wrote. And it came up with some really nice cholesterol sounding titles with really important famous people in the cholesterol field that all of a sudden my name was as first author of. So it completely made up these very real looking references.
Yes, but it is a prediction model, so who knows? Maybe you'll still be in those papers.
Yeah. That's not gonna happen.
Just throwing it out there.
Okay. Now another thing with ChatGPT is that it's quite a blank canvas and that you need to give it prompts and give it context to do a specific task. and that you basically need to teach it to get the best output that you want it to do, and that it cannot do really specific functions. Now you can fix that a little bit with the custom GPTs that are now available, which we have also tried out. We have tried out the consensus and a couple of other ones. But we found that oftentimes the custom GPTs still send you to the original tool's website. And because of this, I would actually say that we don't recommend GPT-4 for scientists, just because we think for content creation and things like that, it's absolutely great. But for science, you really need something that cites its sources, that shows you where it comes from, so that you can check it yourself. And there's just better free tools out there that you can use for that. So maybe a bit of a unpopular opinion, but we don't recommend ChatGPT or GPT-4 even for science, because there are better ones out there.
Yes. And yeah, one of the free tools that we would like to mention in this case
that we do recommend,
yes, is called Insight. This is especially a good tool if you're a life scientist and you want to dive into a topic and learn more about it and work on it a little bit. It's a great tool that lets you, I think, also chat with your papers, but also dive deeper into the topic. It can also help you figure out, basically kind of create hypotheses that are based on like the information that is there, and explore more papers based on the topic as well as you dig into it. So I did this with the topic of one of my papers, and it came up with some good suggestions. It was like, yeah, I remember talking with my supervisors about this should be the follow-up for this, so not bad.
Yeah, and of course, it's always on you as a scientist to make sure that you know your stuff and that you can concur that these are good ideas. But sometimes it can just be helpful to talk with an AI tool and come up with some new ideas that maybe you didn't have yet.
Yeah, it just to bounce off your ideas, right? And get, that's always good.
For sure. The next free AI tool that we do recommend is either Perplexity or Consensus. They are quite similar. They're both research assistants. They're quite similar to ChatGPT in the sense that they are just chatbots that you can have a conversation with. But a really important difference is that they are less likely to make things up, because they have been taught to actually only use information that is findable on the internet, with a big caveat that information findable on the internet doesn't, of course, have to be true. But at least it shows you then also the sources that it came from. So you can check where it got that information and check its sources and see if that's reliable information. And that's already such a massive upgrade over what ChatGPT does. Now you can also have Consensus, I think, as a plugin, a custom GPT. But you can also just use the free tool on itself, and it works really well. And it's also something that we do really recommend.
Yes. And that brings us then to our next tool, SciSpace. And SciSpace is also somewhat of a research, but also kind of a writing assistant. It has quite a variety of little functionalities added to it. So it also has article summarization. So you can just add your PDF of an article into it, and you can then ask it questions about that specific article. It can also help you reword sentences to make it sound a little bit more academic as well. In addition to that, it can also help you, if you have that specific article that you want to create a reference for, it can help you create it in different styles. So the citation, and adapt it to whatever citation style you need for a journal. It also has an AI detector, apparently. I haven't tried out that feature yet. I don't know how reliable.
I did.
Oh, you did? And how?
AI detector shock.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, SciSpace, but yours is not worse than any of the other ones.
No, fair. But that's also the thing. Was this the one that
I added a paper from 1998, and it was 40% likely to be human. Yeah.
It could be worse, could be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so SciSpace has a lot of different tools that can help you in quite a different variety of ways.
I also like that you can ask it full questions and that it then starts searching the literature for any papers that might answer your question.
Yes.
Instead of just having to fill in keywords and then sort of hoping to find a paper that answers a question.
Yes.
Okay, the next tool that we really recommend is Research Rabbit. And that's an actually really interesting one, because that doesn't fall under the Gen AI tool. It falls under the normal AI tools, because it doesn't create new information. So even if your school or whatever has rules about not being allowed to use Gen AI, then Research Rabbit should probably still be okay. Because what it does is it makes a mind map basically of all your papers and connects them via references. So you start out with a couple of papers that you're, for example, collecting for a literature review or a research paper. I've also used it for that. And then it starts showing connections, and it starts also adding papers that are in the same field as your other papers. And then you can find these new papers. You can also sort them on dates so that you can only look for the newest ones. You can look for which papers are the most referenced one in your field or on a specific topic so that you can find the base papers that you really want to reference. And you can also learn a lot of information on the authors via this tool because it just connects a lot of the information that is out there on papers. And it's really, really powerful. And I really recommend it. It just really helps you also to not miss a paper. When you're doing literature review, it's kind of important that you don't miss a really important paper. And it really helps you with that.
No, for sure. And especially if once you get a sense for like what those fundamental papers in like the field are, especially if you're just getting started with a topic or stuff like that, that's really handy. No, for sure. 100% agree on that. And I think the last tool we want to recommend is Jenny. So it's really this one is really more of a writing assistant. So it really helps you write through your research paper, literature review, whatnot. Also, kind of similar to SciSpace, it has the ability to add citations and also chat with your articles and stuff like that. So also really powerful, really nice. I just wish that we talked about this before, that it integrated with Word or like Google Docs, because that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's the only less good thing is that you actually have to type in their document.
Yep.
What I do really love is I don't like my entire thing to be written by AI. I don't want that. But what I do love is that if I pause for a little bit longer on a certain sentence halfway through the sentence because I'm still thinking about how to word a good sentence and how to end it, that it then gives me just a recommendation of how to end it. And then that's oftentimes not really the direction I wanted to go in the first place. But it does give me sort of this moving forward feeling of, oh yeah, no, I don't like this, or I do like this sentence structure, but I want to say this instead. And then it really helps me to not get stuck in just 5 sentences in an entire afternoon of writing. It really helps me keep moving things along. And even if my first version of my sentences are then not perfect, that really helps me very well. So I do really love Jenny.
Yeah, no, for sure. We've tried it out and it's great. With that said, there are also other AI tools that are also doing really innovative and cool things out there. Unfortunately, not all of them made the cut and they don't really have a free version, so we didn't include them in the list for today. But there are AI tools that try to help you find funding and much more. So definitely keep an eye out for more AI tools. And if there are any more that you think we should definitely know about, please let us know. We would really love to know about them so we can talk about them as well.
Yes. Also really interesting is that quite soon we'll have a course coming up about AI for scientists and for academics, about how to use them. And we'll have a lot more cool AI tools in that course, as well as more practical tips about how to use them. So if you're interested in that, sign up for our newsletter. You will find the link in the description, or it is thestrugglingscientist.com/newsletter. And then you can sign up and we'll keep you up to date about when this course will happen. Yes. Then let's talk about some of the practices of integrating AI in your academic work. Well, we think it is really worth it to just try out some of these tools and figure out what works for you. Literally just experiment with them, which as a scientist should excite you, of course. Just experiment a little, see what works for you, what works in your workflow, and how you would like to use them, and find something that fits you.
Yes. And I mean, ultimately also, the responsibility for the correctness of the information that you put in your papers is still on you, right? It's your name on there. No one has ever blamed the calculator for, mistakes. It's you need to be the person. You are the person. They'll take the fault for it. So you should also be the person incentivized to make sure that it's good.
Yeah. And with that, we think that some of the tools we recommend can really help you make sure that the information is correct more easily than ChatGPT. Another one is to use it as an assistant and not as a guide or supervisor. Don't just blindly follow it, basically. Make sure you check that if it comes up with an idea, that you make sure that it's actually a good idea before you start promoting it or start writing it in your grant proposal. Keep using your brain, I would say.
Yes. And I guess lastly for that is also just we want to encourage a balance between finding sort of the efficiencies, finding the ways to optimize your academic work with the help of AI assistants, but also you're still the researcher, right? You still need to be an independent thinker. The AI will not come up with the new stuff. It just helps you do the tasks that need to be done. You still need to write it down. It can help you make your writing a bit better, more legible for people. It can help you phrase it. It can help you with a lot, but it cannot write your paper completely from scratch for you.
No, for sure not.
So then that brings us to basically our last segment, and that's where we get to ponder the ramifications of AI moving forward in the future of academia, as it were. And like, I guess as we mentioned, there are a kind of new AI tools popping up every day. There's also just a higher demand placed on academics to be more productive. And that's always been the case, right? Like with every new tool or new way of doing things, it's like suddenly becomes easier, so we can do more of it. And just because of that, others will also just start using these AI tools to be more productive, to make their life a bit simpler. And if you're not doing it, then you're kind of just not keeping up, I guess. You're making your life way harder than it needs to be.
Such a competitive field, academia.
Yes. And when it doesn't need to be for you as the academic, right? Like you can get assistance from this tool if you learn how to use it. And that is going to take a little bit of upfront cost, but it is important.
That's not to say that we agree with the way that academia just keeps pushing more and more and more and more on side. Just to be clear, we don't like that. No. But sadly, we do think that because of AI, this is gonna increase. Yeah.
I mean, there was already a Nature paper or a Nature article on like there are authors apparently that publish hundreds of papers per year. It's like that's not clean. But
I also then wonder what your contribution to science actually is in each of these papers.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like.
But that's a whole other problem.
That's another episode.
To end on a little bit of a better note, AI will only get better, and I often see people saying that the first generation AI that we're using now will be the worst AI that we will ever use. And it's already pretty amazing. So I'm kind of excited about what the future will bring and how it will be integrated in our daily lives even more. And maybe at some point also in our lab equipment. And then we get robots that pipe it for us. And that would also be very, very cool. Your
pipette will tell you that it's off-calibrated.
Yeah. Well, that happens a lot. So yes. Yeah, so it will only get better and it will only get cooler. And I'm pretty excited about that. Also for the world of science and for academia. Because even in this past year, so many cool tools came out that it's a struggle to keep up sometimes.
Yeah, and now there's also AI trying to be integrated in hardware like your phones or other tools. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to quickly say that even though we have been in the past sponsored by different AI tools, this episode is not sponsored by any of them. So all of our recommendations are, of course, just our recommendations. But even for the ones that we do sponsor, we only accept the ones that we really do think is cool and that we think will help our audience. And so, yeah, that's just a message.
Yes.
Okay, for our listeners, if you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, you can reach out to us via thestrugglingscientist.com. You can also check out our website to sign up for the awesome Journal of the Struggling Scientist, aka our newsletter. And if you've enjoyed this episode, then leave us a rating on your favorite podcast listening platform, as this helps us reach more struggling scientists, and then we can help them with cool AI tools, for example. You can also follow us on social media. Jeroen, which ones are those again?
X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube.
Yes, very nice. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope to see you again next time. Bye.
Bye. ChatGPT has left the chat.